Welcome back, honors. Well, maybe not welcome back, but just welcome to the. This is a flipped classroom, right? So this is going to be your first of many flips throughout the year, and you'll typically be giving them on like a staggered basis. Usually, we'll go like night on, night off, night on, night off. The one big difference between you and a lot of the other classes is the fact that you'll actually get these over the weekend as well, sometimes over breaks, so if we need to catch up or whatever. But basically just remember while you're watching that you need to be taking good notes and be able to bring this information with you back into class the next day, right? So let's go ahead and get started though. So this is the foundations of Western civilizations as we know them. As we know, we are studying the history of Western society in this class, right? So first of all, let's talk about the West, right? Quote unquote, the West. Now, first and foremost, if it's in quotes, you know it means it's a figurative idea. It's not necessarily a physical, tangible place. It's an idea, right? Now, when we speak of the West, we typically are defining it culturally. And big factors of culture of the West is like free and participatory government, religious toleration, and capitalist, right? So some of your Eastern civilizations typically were more communist or socialist or Shinto if you were in Japan during the early 1940s, right? So different, like, and also that's another thing really quickly to remember, write this down somewhere. Due to the location of a country on a map does not necessarily delineate it of being west or east, right? It has to do with their culture, okay? So let's keep going though. But defining it geographically, if we had to, it's a tradition that started in the Mediterranean Sea. Now, spent centuries as a European idea developing, right? So we are actually seeing the modern West now, but the fledgling small West actually started in what we call ancient Greece, okay? And it is going to spread across the world and is going to be extremely successful. Now, we actually are very limited with how many so-called Eastern civilizations that there are remaining, right? A big one is, of course, the Nation of Islam, the Chinese, Mongolians, a lot of the South Asian or Southern Asian regions, several Middle Eastern countries. But that's not typically when you think of a country that the United States deals with, you're usually going to be talking more of a Western civilization, right? So, of course, let's keep going though. Now, the idea of the West is a very controversial one because the traits of it sound very, very positive. You're thinking free and participatory government, it's capitalist, people are making money, and then also religious toleration. But the West has also been home to slavery in the past. Women historically in the West have fewer rights than men. Also, the gap between wealth and poverty is pretty staggering in many Western civilizations. Even back into the ancient ones, the Romans had a massive poverty gap, right? So, let's keep going. Don't write this down. Don't write this down. Just listen, okay? Definitions also bring this huge paradox, okay? Because Western civilization technically began in what is now Iraq, quote unquote, like flourished out of there. And then also today, Japan is considered far east on the map, but is a Western civilization. And during the Cold War, Turkey was Western while Libya, far to the west of Turkey, was Eastern. All right, so that's what I'm saying. It doesn't necessarily have to do with your location on a map, okay? So let's keep going though. Now, anyway, the word itself, civilization, actually comes from the combination of two Latin words, civis, which means citizens, and civitas, which means a city, right? So thus, cities appear crucial to our sense of what an actual civilization is. Write this word down in big capital letters. It's a word I love to use because it makes complete sense to me, and if it doesn't make complete sense to you, then we'll figure out a way to force it to. Now, it's consolidation, all right? Consolidation in the terms of groups of people gathering together in one location for the betterment of each other, right? So, now cities are going to emerge as a result of what is called the Neolithic Revolution, all right? So, we break history down into two phases. Listen closely, all right? Two phases. There's the Neolithic period, and then there's the Paleolithic period, right? The Paleolithic period is all of your Homo erectus, Homo habilis, early hominids, Australopithecus, Neanderthals, Cro-Magnons, what you call quote-unquote like caveman or early man. They were nomadic by their trade. They actually moved from place to place to find food. And then the Neolithic Revolution is going to hit, which occurred about 9,000 to 10,000 years ago in Mesopotamia and in Egypt. And this revolution, or the Neolithic agricultural revolution, was the development of domestication of animals, farming, and the creation of a surplus, right? What, really quickly, don't even look at it, cover it up. What is a surplus? Anybody? Good job, Jake von Hohenstein. That's exactly right. Surplus is an excess of material, right? It's material that's left over through non-growing seasons for a population to survive on, right? Typically in these early ancient civilizations, it was grain reserves, right? So let's keep going though. Now, also, when talking about civilization, another huge trait of civilization, other than cultivized agriculture, is religion, right? Extracting food from arid regions that surrounded rivers demanded a social cohesion, right? And when I say cohesion, I mean a bringing together of different groups, right? Now, this led to labor specialization. So this is a couple more traits of a Western civilization. Job specification, so like artisans, blacksmiths, people like that. And then also social stratification, which is organized into governments, but also, in turn, complex religions. So, really, really quickly, go ahead and star next to these different attributes we've talked about. So we've got surpluses from agriculture, job specialization or stratification, social stratification or social classes, / an organized government, and in turn also a complex religious system, right? Resulting from old ideas of religion exemplified when they early began to bury the dead. Does anybody know the word for some of these early religions? The difference between polytheistic and monotheistic? Good job, Adam. That's right. Polytheism is religions that are based on multiple gods, whereas monotheism is actually based on one. All right, so anyway, but let's keep going. So, again, civilization, quote unquote. Civilization arose about 5,000 years ago. Now, don't write this, but that seems like a long time, right? Long time ago. But keep in mind, the Earth is 4 billion years old, all right? If you were to take a football field, and it's 100 yards long, if you were to just simply look, if the football field is time in total, the last blade of grass at the goal line of the 100-yard mark is how long humans have existed on this world by comparison to how long it's been around, right? So that's insane. So we haven't been around for nearly as long. The Earth is 4 billion years old, and we are a very special brand of humans, not called Homo sapiens, but we're actually Homo sapiens sapiens. We're a subspecies of Homo sapien, because technically in Homo sapien, Neanderthals are also here, and Homo sapien adultu is also here, but we're Homo sapien sapiens, right? Now, you can usually say Homo sapiens, though, because it's a specific species set. Now, their ancestors are about 100,000 years old, and humans in general can be traced back to Africa, right? What are the two people that supposedly started the human race? What two people? They were put in the Garden of Eden. Anybody? Great job, Izzy. All right, so it's the Adam and Eve, right? Now, the funny part about it is, you know how Adam actually tells the story of creationism about how Adam came first and then Eve? Ironically enough, we know for a fact that Eve was real. Maybe not so much necessarily in the biblical sense, but Eve was the first woman to give birth to the first Homo sapien sapien, and we call her mitochondrial Eve, and we believe that she came out of Africa, right? So, anyway, now, don't write this, but this course is mostly about our story, the story of early civilizations and the gifts that they have given us throughout our everyday lives, right? Now, the first humans, of course, are hominids, right? Hominids is what you call man. And they spread all over the world through a massive migration, okay? And again, don't write this, but hominids have been around for millions of years. We're just the newest version of them, right? You've got Australopithecus, and then you've got Homo erectus and Homo sapiens, which is the wise human being. And you got Neanderthals, which are a part of that. But we are what is considered Homo sapiens sapiens, the wise human being, which replaced Neanderthals and spread throughout the entire world. There's one other one called Homo sapien adultu, which probably was a little bit bigger and had a smaller brain than we do, but you know what I mean, got that big old brain power, right? So anyway, the emergence of civilizations, though, is going to come around 6 specific characteristics, right? We were just talking about them earlier, but here they are specifically. We got concentration or consolidation, right? People living in large groups. Distinct religious structures, gods, priests, a bureaucratic system of that. Political and military structure, which has bureaucracy, armies. This is going to develop later on after a lot of these other traits. Social classes, another huge one is a writing system, right? Before written records, the only time that we call that area history, right? Mainly because it was nothing but oral records. And what's the problem with oral records? You can put a little arrow next to this or something like that. The problem with oral records is they can easily be changed. Do you remember when you were, well, crumpet, I don't know if they played this game over in England, but we call it telephone over here. And it's the idea that like you whisper into somebody's ear and it's supposed to make its way all the way around the classroom without getting messed up. But usually if you whispered mint bubblegum into somebody's ear, it comes out the other end purple monkey dishwasher or something like that. So oral records can be changed. They can be exaggerated. They can be dramatized. They can be a lot of different things, right? So also, the other and last remaining characteristic of civilization is artistic and intellectual activity, right? So you don't have to make art, but you want to make art, right? So anyway, but let's keep going. Now, the ancient Near East, of course, this is where it's all going to get started. And we're kicking off with this ancient civilization tomorrow, all right? The Mesopotamians. Of course, Mesopotamia meaning between two rivers. Bet you didn't see that coming. But we'll get into why it's called that and the breadth of their civilization tomorrow, okay? So, I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. This is the first of many flips. This is kind of how we do things. I will check this tomorrow during the warm-up. And I hope you all have a great day, honors, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Y'all have a good one.